2020 has been a crazy year. At Energy, our team has been staying busy educating our customers on changing events and policies that can impact their businesses, and we're helping them adjust to remote working. The Pendo Resource Center has helped us greatly when it comes to keeping our customers informed. We've had several times our team has had to pivot and add a webinar, short notice, to adjust changes to policies, such as the Payroll Protection Program. Customers can look to our Resource Center to stay up to date on Energy's education offerings without having to leave the Energy platform.
Hello, welcome to Transitioning from Intuition to Data-Driven. My name is Andrina Kelly, and I lead our product analytics and user engagement team at Jamf. And yes, that is how you say it, just Jamf. Jamf was born from wanting to create a better technology management solution for both the admin and the end user of Apple devices. We believe that IT should empower end users and maintain an outstanding user experience that everyone has come to expect when using an Apple device. Our products are the standard in Apple Enterprise Management. They enable organizations of any size and industry to connect, protect, and manage their entire fleet of Apple devices. Since I joined Jamf just over 5 years ago, the company has more than tripled in headcount, evolved from a single product into offering a full portfolio, and most recently, as of July, is now a publicly traded company. So let's talk a little bit about the time of the years in BP, also known as before Pendo. When we were going about making product decisions, we had a lot of different places that we were looking for information. Of course, we had a lot of internal industry experience, working with our industry partners, gathering feedback from our customers. We had a customer advisory board, and of course doing those nothing important happens in the office visits. We have a small UX research team doing some usability studies, and of course getting feedback from our internal sales and support team. But all of this were really great touch points and ones that we do still use. But with a customer base of over 40,000 customers worldwide, that's a lot of individual interactions and an overwhelming number of customers that we're just not able to learn from. In just our community forum alone, we have over 6,000 product feature requests from our users. And of course, all of this just moved us into the WP phase, also known as Why Pendo? We really wanted to find out if what we believed was true. So how frequently were our users interacting with our product? And were our users adopting those new features that we were implementing? We had some knowledge as to whether a feature was actually configured or not, but we didn't know how long it took for a user to configure that particular feature. And we also didn't know whether they just maybe tried to configure it and failed. So all of this was led by our UX team collaborating with customer service and our product teams. And we got approval from our executives to implement Pendo in 2 of our products. So that moved us into the IP phase, or implementing Pendo. Our first product that we implemented in is a true SaaS product. It had a consistent delivery pipeline, and the product was about 3 years old at the time of implementation. It already had a concept of unique visitors and account IDs, and all of that metadata already aligned with existing metadata in our CRM. And so the implementation of Pendo in Product 1 took us about a month. When we started looking at Product 2 and implementation there, this is the bread and butter of our business. The product is about 15 years old when we implemented, and it was both an on-prem and cloud product. We have a regularly cadenced delivery, and it was built on iframes, which made the implementation a little bit more interesting. And there was no pre-existing concept of a visitor or an account ID. All we had was a licensing mechanism, and that was the one piece of metadata that we had that related back to an account record within our CRM. So with the implementation in this product, because of some of these challenges, it took us about 4 months to implement Pendo within our second product. So now that we've got Pendo implemented, the question came up of, well, who owns this? It was originally brought to the table by UX, and then customer success were involved and of course wanted to leverage it for onboarding. Education services team does a lot of training content. We've got a dedicated tech comm team, and they're working with other sprint teams and writing product documentation. We have an existing BizOps team, and they maintain our CRM and our BI tools. And we've got product managers and product owners who are also really interested in the data and page and feature tagging. And then we've got our marketing team who are really interested in wanting to connect with our users. And so with all of this in mind, can we all own Pendo? We brought together a cross-team effort and collaborated on how are we going to leverage Pendo and put it in place. And this led to a kickoff meeting. And this was the agenda for our kickoff meeting. We wanted to set our best practices for using Pendo in product. We wanted to determine the best way to take in requests for guides in Pendo. Did we need an approval process on how that was all going to be rolled out? And then what about everything else around all of the data that we were gathering from Pendo? This was a very, very ambitious agenda for our first cross-team collaborative meeting. And what it ended up being is a meeting that created even more questions. So how do we decide on who owns the help desk if that's how we're going to collect information on what should go in Pendo? And then all of these really big questions of, well, what do we do with all of this data? Where do we store the data? Who has access to the data? Wait, slow down. These are too many questions for a team that already has a lot of other things to do. Let's just tackle one. Let's take a look at that help desk. When we thought about the help desk, there were certain things that we knew we were going to have to ask if somebody wanted to have a guide implemented in product. Like, what's this guide for? What are we doing with this guide? We were asking, is this for a new feature? Is it a known issue that we want to let our users know about? Is this an onboarding guide? Or are we looking for feedback from our users? And so it was pretty simple to put together those basic questions of who should see this? What's the goal? When should we publish it? When should we take it down? And so now that we know what questions we want to ask, how do we even deploy this workflow of getting a guide published? And that led to the workflow in Jira that looks like this. So first, the decision-making process. Are we even going to publish this guide? Do we need a rubric for this? Do we want to leverage different types of guides and different placements for different actions? Wait, this is a lot of questions. We just need to back up here. Are we going to do this or not? Yes, we're going to do this. Cool. Who is going to actually work on building this guide? That's where we moved into the second step here of who's creating the guides. We don't have someone identified at Jamf right now who should be responsible for this. So let's get a team together and see if we can evolve here. We ended up bringing together our TechCom team, our UX team, and our QA to be able to build out what the voice of our Pendo guides should look like, be able to make sure it aligned with our existing technical documentation, and then test it in the same way that we test our software as a normal release would go. So then once we've got our guide in place, this is where we start to measure. Is the goal of the guide successful? How long does this need to be put in place? And then do we need to expire the guide, or is this something that stays permanently and we can close out the help desk ticket? So this all worked really great, didn't it? We built a help desk. We published guides. Stand back and profit. This was a great first step for us, and we learned a lot from it. We had meetings set up every 2 weeks to review everything that came through the help desk. But after a few months, the attendance at these meetings tended to dwindle, and it was really just the core team of people from our UX, our TechCom team, and our QA who were persisting and trying to keep this motion moving. Everyone had existing full-time roles and demands on them that just wasn't allowing them to be able to focus additional time on this. Meanwhile, at Jamf, one of the PMs of our other products came to me and asked, "We can get insights into how people are using our product. Can I get that?" And that was quickly followed by our chief technology officer saying, "We just acquired this new product. Can we get Pendo implemented in that ASAP?" And then this happened. We just acquired another new product. Obviously, we need Pendo implemented there too. So for those keeping track at home, we now have Pendo subscriptions in 5 different products and 1 cross-departmental team with responsibility for this. It did leave a big question though. Who is accountable for the vision and strategy of all the data and the in-app engagement? Clearly we're seeing value, and we've seen a lot of valuable usage data coming from the data that we've collected so far, and obviously more and more parts of the organization are asking for this data. But with this one cross-departmental collaborative team, who's actually accountable for this? And are we recognizing all the value that we think we can? Are we surfacing appropriate product insights? And sure, we're really good at telling our customers when there's something new in product, but what about other kinds of user engagement? Are we gathering the right kind of feedback? Are we putting tooltips in where they could potentially be leveraged? And are we in fact using all of the features of Pendo equally across our portfolio? We're about 1.5 years in at this point, and it was time to ask the age-old question. Where is this relationship going? I think it's time to make things serious. We all agreed. We were committed enough. It was time to go to the next level. Like any good relationship, it was time to take stock of where we were at. What was working? What could use some work? And this is where the good old Harvey ball came to play. We pulled out the Harvey balls, went right back to the basics. We looked back at the key use cases of why we, in fact, decided on using Pendo in the first place. Those key cases around onboarding your users, increasing product adoption, improving product engagement, and understanding user sentiment. How are we delivering on those with our product as it was right now? When taking an honest look across our portfolio, we saw a lot of empty Harvey balls, and some with just a little bit of use in a few areas, and as we continued through the audit, it didn't really get much better. Clearly, we had some work to do here. And that brought it back to the very, very original question. Who does own this? While we recognize that the cross-functional team had put together a really great foundation to build from, the strategy and vision needed to be centralized and owned by a dedicated team. But which one? We recognized early on when we built our cross-functional team that we really needed to get something brought together. What we needed is a team that was going to be dedicated while still collaborating closely across the entire organization. And this is where the product analytics and user engagement team evolved from. So the product analytics and user engagement team reports into our VP of product management. And just a few months into the newly formed department, we realized that we needed some very distinct roles. We needed people responsible for everything guide related, and have people responsible for the immense amount of data that we now have. This second group, the data product management and the data analysts and data scientists, they have some really big questions to answer, like how do we manage data? And where do we store that data? And then what do we do with that data? But let's step back for a moment and really dig in to what this data team is expected to do. Those are actionable metrics. And the other thing, if you look at actionable metrics, what you're really saying is the missing link between data and the value of that data. So when we talk about data, we're generally thinking about these three pieces that build on each other. Data, that raw, unprocessed fact. The information, which is human-friendly format and provides a little bit more context about that data. And then those insights. They can be generated by analyzing the information and drawing conclusions from them. But how about a real-world example? This is my personal move over the last month, and it's a data point. It says I've been averaging around 910 calories a day. Is that good? Is that bad? It's just information right now. As we move on, we've got a little bit more information on this screen. It shows me some more insights and tells me how things are progressing over time. But what are the clear actions that I can take to increase these numbers if I want to keep on going up in the number of calories I'm burning a day? This is where we start diving into the insights. If I want to burn more calories, I should probably think about stepping it up a little bit on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But overall, the trends are going in the right direction. So that's a really great insight to have there. An insight that drives action is typically more valuable than one that simply just answers a question. And that's what we want our product data and analytics team to really drive. We need to navigate that business value. They need to identify what our strategy around data is, produce a distinct data roadmap, and increase adoption of data usage within our organization. And they should be doing that through delivering these types of actionable insights. On the other side of our department with the in-app engagement, this is where we've got a really strong cross-team collaborator. We have so many teams that are already creating content around our organization that we don't need another content creation factory. We need someone who can collaborate with all those teams, bring that information together, and be able to put it into a user engagement voice that really speaks in product. They're going to own understanding what the theme and the usage rubric is for our guides across our entire portfolio. So when we talk about the rubric, that's actually defining we should use this type of guide theme for this type of announcement or feature or onboarding guide. And then this person's also responsible for ensuring that our guides work properly, for ensuring that after we've done a release that the guides are still doing what they expect them to do, ensuring that they're still relevant and still being valuable to our end users. Additionally, this person is responsible for maintaining any page or feature tagging as we make modifications through the software, and they can keep things up to date. When we start taking a look at this new team and what our plans are for the now, next, and later, what we've identified are things that really need to take a look at right now. We need to enable more teams with data, and we need to really define what that guide rubric is. And so what kind of guide do we use for what kind of communication? As well as taking a look at that page and feature tagging audit. When we've had a cross-functional team and so many people contributing, we now have a bit of a scenario where some things may be not obvious as you go in, and we want to create a guideline of when you tag a page or a feature, this is how it's going to be done. Looking into the near future, we're going to be focusing in on our portfolio onboarding. So as we started to test a little bit of in-app onboarding in a couple products right now, we're looking to push that out across our entire portfolio so that we get that similar onboarding voice and mechanism across all of our products, as well as taking a look at what metadata we have within Pendo and being able to align that across all of our subscriptions, as well as aligning that back to our CRM. From there, we'll be taking a look at, my goodness, we have all of this data, where does it live? And working with our business operations team, should that be in a warehouse? How are we going to maintain that? And how do we want to present that to any kind of a business intelligence and then be able to surface data insights from that? And finally, as we look well into the future, we'll be looking at things like being able to align the information that we already knew about a configured state and then how someone configured that state. So as we take a look at whether something's on or off, did someone manage to turn that on or off in 5 clicks, 3 clicks? Did they have to come back 3 months later before they were successful? We want to be able to align all of these distinct pieces of data together with this team, as well as looking at some expanded in-app feedback and interactions. So as we are releasing new features, we want to get a better feedback from our end users as to what they think about them. And then moving further down the line, as a lot of our departments are evolving and changing, we have a concurrent process going on around evolving our technical communication documentation. And they are looking at leveraging a lot more metadata within their product documentation, and we want to be able to align that into our Pendo implementation to allow to have contextual product documentation in-app. So, to recap, when we first started looking at Pendo, we really wanted to identify, why did we need this data? We had so many customers that we were getting to a point of saturation and having so many voices and not really having a lot of factual guidance on which way to go. And so that was where we narrowed in and decided that looking at interaction data coming from Pendo was going to help us make smart product decisions. We talked about how we implemented Pendo, some of the things that we learned while we were doing that, and then how quickly we saw adoption within our company as we implemented Pendo. What it took to start building a center of excellence. And to start off, I don't think I would go and change any way that we did this. I think focusing a person on this right from the outset without having experience of using it within our organization would have been a really tough job for an individual. And so having those multiple minds all coming together and working on this and having awareness of it, I think actually gave us a very strong foundation. And of course, it led to the evolution of where we're at now, where we're able to step back, identify those gaps, and really dedicate something that we knew was going to be useful to Jamf as an organization. And now we're just ready to grow. Thanks for taking some time. I've really enjoyed sharing this with you, and please stay safe.